Testing.
10 a.m. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Assistant Clerk and City Clerk. Good morning. This is the September 5th budget hearing, special call meeting for the budget hearing. I would like to call the meeting to order. Madam City Clerk, if we could please have roll call.
Yes. Honorable Catherine Rao, District 1.
Present.
Honorable Carmelita Gums, District 2. Honorable Helen Willis, District 3.
Present.
Honorable J.C. Sebastian, District 4.
Present.
Honorable Corey Reeves, District 5. Honorable Natasha Williams Brown, District 6, Mayor Pro Tem.
Present.
Honorable Linda Pritchett, District 7.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. If you could please sound the first item.
First agenda item, presentation of FY 2024 budget. Sharon D. Subadan, Interim City Manager.
Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me okay? Thank you. This is the budget presentation for our public hearing, and I believe this is going to be a first read this morning. We've made some adjustments. You can keep moving, please, Madam Clerk. Keep it moving. You can't hear me? Yeah, I know. I'm having a hard time as well. Just keep advancing for me. Let's keep it moving.
Yeah.
Next slide. Next slide. So I'm not going to focus on the mission, vision, and the outline of the budget because we've done that before, but we made some very definite changes to the budget based on the reduction of the millage rate in our last millage rate meeting where the millage was adopted. And so that amounted to $2.4 million in reductions. And what we tried to do is look at those things that would create the reduction without having a major impact on the overall delivery of services to the city. And so the first thing we did is to look at our one-time expenditures. And with our one-time expenditures, we reduced the holiday lighting by $400,000. We reduced signage by $100,000. We reduced the grant match by close to $200,000. And that allowed us to create some reductions, and then I moved some expenditures from recurring to one-time. One of those things that we moved was the fire maintenance, which I intend for it to be a recurring expenditure, but we moved to one-time. We also have a digitization project with the clerk's office, and we moved that to one-time. Can you get the name off for me? I have no signal. Sorry, I'm a little disjointed because I have no signal here either. So my PowerPoint isn't moving, so I'm depending on the screen, which I can barely see. And so, next slide for me, please. Again, next slide. We have not changed the amount of funding from the fund balance. We've made some reductions to our start time of our new initiative personnel costs. So recognizing that even though we're going to be very aggressive with budget, we are going to do a 1-month delay And that will allow us, thank you, that will allow us to realize some savings. So all in all, we were able to account for the $2.4 million reduction. We heard all of you and got all of your input, and recognize that with the reduction, we can still roll out the budget with some belt tightening as in accordance to the reductions. Next slide, please. And so the new citywide budget is for $204 million, and as broken down, 62% is general fund operating, 12% general fund capital, and other funds, special funds like T-Splost and solid waste are going to be 26%. Next. This is just another display of that same information. 204, 23,942 is the revised fiscal 24 proposed operating budget. Next slide. And this is the breakdown comparison year over year. As I shared in the last meeting, part of the reason for this, what seems like a big increase, is our last year's budget was understated in our lost calculation. Our actual lost calculation, our actual lost receipts were significantly higher than what was budgeted in 2023. This year, we're stating it much more closely with what we expect your local option and sales tax revenue to look like. Next slide, please. And here is the breakdown. All of this information is available on our website under the budget tab. Provides every line item of revenue, and provides a historical perspective. Next slide. And no change here in terms of our revenue. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. This is a breakdown of the general fund, and this is a breakdown of our special revenue. T-Splost, our pedestrian safety fund, which this year is dedicated to pedestrian safety and police. This is where you'll see Hotel Motel, our East and West Side tab. Thank you. Next slide, please. And the following slide. And expenditures by category, which simply shows where the big change, where the big allocations are. Public safety is always the largest category dedicated, followed by public works, administration, and everything else is spread in smaller percentages. Next slide. And this is your base budget. The base budget, of course, has all of our continuing required expenditures, salaries, lease payments, and this is presented by our big categories. The new initiatives are shown for a total of $204,023,942. Next slide. And we have our 5 categories of new initiatives. Next slide. This section, we changed the council priorities as explained by the reduction in the holiday lighting, the wayfinding signage, and a small reduction in our grant match, which is in another area. Next slide. Next slide. I forgot to mention, very big change. We took another look at our debt service. As I explained in the previous budget presentations, we had allocated over $7 million for debt service. We took another look at the debt service schedule for $100 million over 30 years. We believe that we will qualify for a 5.5% interest rate by the time we get ready to look at actual financing. So we reduced the debt service to $6.1 million. Next, please. Next. And no changes in this area except we reduced the start time of the EMS. Actually, no, we made no reductions in public safety. Next slide. Next slide. In this area is where we did make some reductions to reorganization by delaying the reorganization by a month and allowing for some attrition, which helped us with our reductions. Next slide. No changes in our planning area. We believe all of these plans are desperately needed, especially the comprehensive plan update and facilities master plans. We want to make sure as we move into new facilities, we maximize our opportunity to share space and do it in the most effective way possible. And for several years, a call for a development impact fee study has been talked about. This year, we're going to fund it to make sure by next budget year, you have the results of that study and are able to determine if you want to make changes. Next. This is our T-SPLOST, no change here. Next. And the next time you will look at the budget will be next week, Tuesday. It'll be an evening meeting. This meeting is a morning meeting because both best practice is to have an evening public hearing and a morning public hearing. And next opportunity for you to adopt the budget, for your next opportunity to look at the budget will be adoption and second read of the budget ordinance, which would be next week, Tuesday, and that will be an evening meeting. And with that, I'm subject to any of your questions.
Thank you, Madam Subadan. I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing for the budget and ask our clerk assisting today if she has any comment cards, any speakers, and if there are any other people who want to speak, feel free to line up on either side. We're going to start with these cards, though.
Yes, Mayor, I have three. First, Ms. Pamela Harris, Ms. Patrice Wise, and Ms. Connie Robinson.
All right, thank you. Our assistant clerk, Ms. Caldwell.
Deputy City Clerk. Deputy City Clerk.
Deputy City Clerk. Ms. Caldwell will keep the time. Please be mindful of your minutes there, and make sure that you state your name and address, district, if you know it.
Good morning. My name is Pamela Harris, Montclair Estates, District 1. I've been just reading and making notes this morning. I see that you've reduced the Christmas decorations by $1,000. But on the other hand, you have increased the city manager's P card to $25,000 per month. I can't imagine why you would need $25,000 a month. The city council's P cards have increased from $5,000 to $10,000 per month. Now, the other thing that I have a question about, the city manager works under the council, and the city clerk works under the council. So now the council has to get permission from their employees. I hope that every item to the T is accounted for and all taxes are paid on all monies coming through this city, because the IRS needs to do an extensive investigation.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, my name is Patricia Wise. I live at 7322 Basalt.
Ms. Wise, could you give us your district, please?
District 7. Okay. Ms. Pritchard, I'm glad to see that you're well due to the accident. But I'm here to question this P-card usage. Now, I don't normally get up here. I'm one of those type of people who fine-tooth comb just about everything. I got all the receipts, I got all the statements, and this is deplorable. I don't mean to step on people's toes or circumvent the process or do it, but when it's wrong, it's wrong. And I like to step back with Ms. Harris. You guys got about $127,000 in P-card uses. I mean, allowable spending money. I mean, my goodness. I mean, if I can get $10,000 a month, I would be living off of it too. Okay? So I've already filed a complaint. It's got kicked back to me. I'm going to file the complaint again. But we have got to get this under control. And I'll keep filing a complaint until I'm heard, until the hearing is given, my right to a hearing is given to me, because it's not right. It's not fair against the citizens of this community who pay taxes. And at some point, we have to stop the misuse, the abuse, or whatever it is that you guys want to call it, or cover it up to be what it is. It is what it is, okay? It has to stop. All right, thank you.
Good morning. Connie Robinson, 2805 Pondview Court in District 2. I'm standing here on behalf of myself as well as the City of South Fulton HOAs and Neighborhood Advocacy.
Pardon me, Ms. Robinson, District 2.
Yes.
I heard that, but no one else can hear you. Maybe can you pick the mic up?
Okay,
There
hello.
you go.
Okay, that's a little better. Okay, I'll start over. Connie Robinson, 2805 Pondview Court, District 2. Here on behalf of myself and the City of South Fulton HOAs and Neighborhood Advocacy Group. I want to thank you for your look back at the budget and the budget cuts that you are looking to make. But in looking to make those budget cuts, I'm trying to understand, how do we do increases? Like, how do we increase the P cards when, especially, there's been so much drama around the P card usage and misuse, or whatever the case might be, and then to increase it by whatever the percentage rate is. I know it was what, 5,000, and now it's looking at $25,000 per month. We need those funds in our planning projects and things of that nature. I don't think we should be assigning that type of money individually to our districts. We need to stop operating our districts as if they are mini cities and look at the city as a whole and put that money to usage for the whole, and just prioritize where those funds can best be spent in the priority order that they should be spent. And something else tied to money is the sanitation. I know we're not talking about that right now, but I just want to make mention that our citizens are billed for a whole year when the service did not start until June 1st. So how are we billed from January 1 to December 31 when we only had service, for some of us that are getting service, June 1st through, I would say, December 31? I think for the citizens to have to pay a whole year in advance for 6 months of service that they did not receive is deplorable, and it really needs to be adjusted. You have a SWAP program that's supposed to help with financial need as it relates to sanitation. Why not just get the billing correct? And then you may not need so many people looking for the SWAP. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson.
Thank you.
Anyone else, Deputy Clerk?
Ms. Denson? And Ms. Denson, can you make sure you give us your district?
And if you don't know it, you tell us your address, we'll tell you your district. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Ivory M. Denson. I'm a resident in District 2. Ms. Gumbs is my councilwoman. There are a couple of things I want to speak to. One is about the P-card usage. It just seems to me that, okay, let me be clear for the record. I was not for this staying up this new city, and the reason why is because of just what has been happening ever since it has been stood up. There have been various problems. There have been financial problems. It seems to me that we keep electing people who want to have a lot of perks get big salaries, benefits, those that they couldn't get in private industry. Government is supposed to provide a service. It's not for people to enrich themselves. And that's what I see that appears to be happening. I am totally disgusted with the entire council. One of the best person that was not re-elected was Mrs. Gilliard, who kept her hand on the pulse of how money is being spent. Now we have people who are spending unnecessarily, getting into contracts for several years. It is fiscally irresponsible, and I wish that the citizens would get together and find a way to start suing the council individually and as a group. Also, I want to speak to the fact that lack of communication. I did not get the message, and I don't know if it was my fault or not, that garbage would be picked up on yesterday. It was a holiday. So I assumed that, as the message had said previously, if your pickup date is the holiday, that it would be picked up the following day. And to get an email about after they want it out on Sunday, they get an email after 8:30 was ridiculous. I just hope that you will look at the service that you are providing instead of looking at numerous ways to enrich yourselves. You are supposed to be serving. You are not in the position to enrich yourselves. And I hope that the citizens will start turning people out, voting you out, because you're not doing a good job. It isn't that the mayor's having issues. Everybody seems to be having issues. And it's disgusting. I asked for one city in America whose occupants were predominantly black people and that was run by black people, that was well run. Nobody could give me not one city. And someone said, well, maybe the city of South and Fulton would be. You have failed miserably. You are performing miserably. Thank you.
Mayor, we have one last one, Ms. Glenda Collins. Could you state your district, please?
Come forth, Ms. Collins.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is Glenda Collins. I live at 3740 Morning Creek Drive, District 5. I stand here before you today, and I would like to say, if we had not become a city, I would not be standing here. We became a city so that we can make our own path, our own destination, and become great. And I agree with the City Council on their decisions because you are elected to serve us. And I know that you would give us the best that you can and what we need to make us have a well-run city. And to my council person, I appreciate him so much. He's having those classes over at Burdett, and all we have to do is come out, get involved, and help serve our council and our mayor and become great citizens of our city. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions, comments, concerns, queries? Please, very quickly, if you'll come forth. Is that Ms. Denson?
I know it says that.
Yes, come forth. If you could.
I apologize.
I'm sorry, this is a question about the budget.
It was in the sense that there was a call meeting about the budget. And so my question was, since this is a call meeting about the budget, was that meeting announced according to the regulation? Because to me, I just got the notice maybe a couple of days beforehand. So
No.
my question was usually, in my organization I belong to, we used to have a time period to give people the notice, and you schedule it the day after a holiday when people are still out of town, many of them. So do you really want, if you schedule like this, then you're likely not to get the citizenry participation that hopefully you want to have? That
Yes,
was my
ma'am.
question.
Got it, thank you. This was properly noticed. I'm going to go to you, City Manager, first to just respond to a few things that you've heard. But it was properly noticed. We have multiple budget here. I think we've probably had 5 to 6 meetings, whether it's the millage rate or the budget. I think some of the thinking was that some folks are still off, right, and might be able to come to this day meeting. But as Ms. Subadan said, there'll also be an evening meeting. Where we'll do more. So with that, Ms. Subadan, if you could just address that, maybe speak a little bit about this P card issue and the 25,000, just to clarify some of the things, the concerns that we've heard, and then I'll go to council for their questions and comments.
So all meetings around the budget and the millage were properly noticed. They were noticed well in advance. And this special call, we have added some other time-sensitive matters to it, but the clerk made certain that we duly noticed everyone on all the millage public hearings as well as the budget public hearings. The last meeting, we had an evening public hearing on the budget. This is our morning public hearing on the budget. This is the first read, and next week is the second and final read and adoption of the budget.
And I'm sorry, if we could pause really quickly there. Deputy Clerk, I'm sorry, do you know how many days in advance we did these notices?
Your notice usually goes out on the Friday before, or early as the Thursday before.
So as of Thursday or Friday last week, these were put notice. I'm sorry, go ahead.
But on these, we actually noticed them even earlier.
Even earlier.
We did.
Thank you.
As it relates to the P card is not allocating money. The P card is a mechanism to draw down the budget. Nobody can draw down the budget in excess of what is allocated in the budget. It is a spending mechanism. And what we found is there were times when the limitation of $1,000 was challenging. For example, if there was a mailer that needed to go out, it was in excess of $1,000 and it was challenging, so we increased the limit for that reason. It doesn't allocate more money out of anyone's budget. The reason the city manager's limit is high is in case of emergency. If there is something that happens in the city and we need to make an emergency purchase, that's the only reason the city manager's limit is set at that level. The spending limit for the city manager was duly approved and allocated by this council and increased to $100,000. So it's merely a spending mechanism. There's no money attached to a P card. It's not a preloaded card. It is just a mechanism to be able to enact purchases. The reason for the P card policy is to make more clear those things that are approved purchases pursuant to the policy that this council adopts.
All right, thank you so much for that. All right, I'm going to just start with our council. I'm sure all of us have something to say, well, almost all of us. District 1. Dr. Rao. Okay, District 2, Councilwoman Gomes. Do you have any questions about the budget presentation or any responses to anything you've heard today?
No, not at this time. The only thing that I was, I guess, concerned about is the cameras. Was that included? I'm trying to remember where exactly the cameras for illegal dumping.
That's a fiscal 23 expenditure. If it's not spent by the end of the year, it'll carry over.
It will carry over? Okay, thank you.
All right, District 3, Councilwoman Willis.
Thank you for recognizing me. The budget hearing notices was put out. Not only were they properly noticed, but if you're in District 3, I published my newsletter on Nextdoor, on my social media outlets, and everyone that I have an email for or that have subscribed to my newsletter, it is in my newsletter. And there was a City of South Fulton Fiscal 2024 budget meeting schedule, and all of these meetings are listed on that schedule. So as far as District 3 residents, this information has been shared in my newsletter, and if you're not in District 3, it's also I share it on social media, and some people who are not in District 3 subscribe to my newsletter, and this same calendar has been placed on the city's website for well over a month, and it lists this meeting, it lists the meeting that was had on the 22nd, and the first budget hearing was on the 22nd, which was at a 6 o'clock meeting. We have to, when it comes to the budget, number one, we have to have several hearings as it relates to the budget. Secondly, we have to make sure that we are having meetings in the day and in the evening to accommodate as many constituents' schedules as possible. So for those who work in the evening, you know, those who are available in the morning, today was your day. On the 22nd was 6 o'clock, and then we're having another meeting on, excuse me, September 5th, and that meeting is in the afternoon. So the notion that we're not doing everything possible to make sure that residents have input, and we're not making sure that residents is not being engaged, and we're doing last-minute notices, that is simply not true. By law, we have to have several public hearings, and by law, we have to make sure that we have proper notices. And this council has taken an extra step to make sure not only do we have evening meetings, but we have at least one daytime meeting. P-card use. Our budget, city council budget, is $55,000 annual. $55,000 annual. Out of that budget, we must do everything. Our community reach activities, we must do our training, we have to pay for our travel out of training, we have to do any type of information we send out to you, whether it's electronic newsletter, whether it's mail. We have to do everything out of that $55,000 budget. We are not increasing our P-card. We're not increasing our budget. The P-card is a mechanism, as the city manager stated, to expend our budget. And what was making it complicated is the $1,000 monthly limit to spend the budget, because one mailer typically costs us anywhere between $4,000 to $5,000. As far as District 3 is concerned, I have been ethical and responsible with my P-card. I have not been asked to pay anything back since I have been on this council for 6 years. I have been accessible and transparent of anyone who has any questions about anything that is spent on my P-card. So I just want to kill the false narrative and the notion that we are increasing any budget by increasing the limit of the P-card. What we are simply doing is increasing how much we can expend from our P-card. Our budget is still our budget. $55,000 is still our budget. We can't go over that, and we have to stay in those confines. The city manager, I still think $25,000 is too low. She is in control of the daily operations of this entire city. This entire city. Things happen. Unforeseen circumstances happen. She is responsible for, she does not want to have to call this council or convene this council every time it's time to, something has to be spent. In most cities of this size, the city manager's spending limit for their P-card is higher than that. Her spending limit, if she goes over $100,000, she still has to come back to this council for approval. What we do not want to do is handicap her ability to do her job on behalf of the residents by giving her a very low spending limit. Anything that she spends is reported back to this council, is reported back to the citizens of the city, and we are a city of 110,000 residents with all of our municipal services that she is in charge of operating. I think $25,000 is low. Sanitation bill. Sanitation, during the process, we have had multiple meetings, we have had multiple information sessions, and it was stated that there will be 4 major holidays that the sanitation company will recognize. Labor Day, 4th of July, Christmas, and Thanksgiving. It was stated multiple times that on holidays, the sanitation service will have a day delay. This is no different from what other sanitation companies were doing before we became a city. We discussed this, we provided the information multiple occasions. Sanitation bills. The sanitation bills are from June 1st, 2023 to June until May 30th of 2024. That is the billing cycle for sanitation bills. We discussed in the information sessions that sanitation bills will go out and they will be billed annually. We do not have the mechanism to bill quarterly. The tax commissioner, who is collecting not only our sanitation fees, but our property tax bills annually. That is what he's doing for every city that he is collecting for in the city of South Fulton. Right now, that is the most efficient way for us to collect our fees for sanitation. I apologize if we can't make everybody happy, but we are doing our best to provide a service that will accommodate residents in the best way that we can. Residents complained about price hikes when it came to sanitation. Residents complained about inconsistencies when it came to sanitation. And so, to be honest with you, before we became a city, the single vendor method is where the county was heading as well. I have the documentation to prove it. So, in the grand scheme of things, sanitation is cheaper for all. $233 a month equates to a year equates to $19 a month. That's cheaper than what most residents in the city are paying. We are having some time. Thank you, sir. I will finish up. We are having, some hiccups as it relates to sanitation as expected for a city of this size, but we will have the kinks worked out, I can assure you, by the end of this year. Lastly, to accommodate residents who were having difficulties in paying their sanitation, it was me who led the sanitation assistance program, and with the support of council, we have put that measure in place. So thank you for the engagement, but I'm gonna make sure, Ms. Subadan, as I close, can you please, some of this information is false, it's not true, and can you please work with communication to put out, I know we shouldn't have to address everything with statements, but this stuff regarding the P card, us increasing our salaries, can we please put something out about that? It is all over social media by people who are trying to politicize this to attack people during the election process. We are not increasing our salaries. It's a way to expense what has already been budgeted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Willis. District 4, Councilman Sebastian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning again, everyone. You know, through this process, part of what I've been constantly commenting on is the education process. You know, I have a friend of mine who constantly says, you don't know what you don't know. And The thing that I've seen most throughout this particular process, I was here last year, the process was virtual and it was less political because this is an election year. I'm not even sure, maybe I missed this, but I just saw recently that the P-card limit was increased to $10,000. I've been here for a year and change. I have not had the issue of going over the $5,000 per month, but that's not to say others haven't had it. The P-card, basically, if you do own a credit card, it's like a credit card. You have a certain limit. That doesn't mean you spend your credit card limit every single month, or it doesn't even mean that it's even your money, right? The mechanism of the $10,000, as was said by Councilwoman Willis and the city manager, is just a way of us to draw down that budget that we have as council members. And by the way, we each have about 16,000 residents in our districts. And if you even think about that, that's about $3.54 we spend annually in doing the job that we are elected to do for each citizen in our district. Education, training, community outreach, and all the other stuff. $3.54. So I want us to think carefully before we attack people, file lawsuits, and put stuff on the internet. Get some understanding of exactly what is happening. I don't know if any of my colleagues are not available to talk to any citizens. I know I am, always. As a matter of fact, I've gotten, since I've been in office, I've gotten phone calls, cards about how responsive I have been to the community. And I dare say my colleagues as well on council, because I've seen them in action and we've had to refer citizens to the correct council members sometimes when they think they're in one district and they're actually in the next. So I just want us as citizens, as I said to someone yesterday, before you put out misinformation and mislead the public, you may want to get the accurate information. With regards to these budget meetings, yes, I would like to see them rotated a little bit more around the city, because believe it or not, it takes me about 40 minutes to get here, and I don't even live at the end, the furthest area of District 4. This is a large city, and we don't have a lot of highways that go through it. So to get from one area to the next, yes, it takes time. So that's one of the things I would like to see us take a look at, because I dare say maybe one of these meetings could have been held at Burdett or at Welcome, right? I would have no problems with that. Yeah, I don't have a building in District 4 to host it, but those certainly would be closer and make it more available to the residents of District 4, which, by the way, I'm not sure if through this process I've seen one resident from District 4. I take that back. There were a couple that spoke about the millage rate. So again, I continue to implore your citizens to learn your city and educate yourself about the process. And I know before I got elected, we had the Citizens University for the city. I'd really love for us to take another look at restarting that if we can, because I think it's a valuable tool that we can use to continue to educate our citizens. With regards to the city manager's spending limit, yes, she has a higher spending limit than city council and probably anyone else in the government, but she should. She's a top operational officer of this city. And with a $200 million budget, to be able to spend $25,000 in an emergency is literally peanuts in comparison. You know, I had a case where there was an emergency, where a road became impossible, two streets as a matter of fact, surrounding 3 schools. And last year we had to call upon the then city manager to get some emergency work done because residents couldn't get to their home unless they had a Jeep. People couldn't take their kids to school unless they traveled a great distance. So $25,000, that didn't quite do to do those road repairs after we had a heavy rainstorm and those roads were impacted by trucks that should not have been there to begin with. I mentioned about the P card, and by the way, let me just mention about this $100,000 for the city manager again, a spending limit. Part of the issue that we were having is that so many small projects had to go through procurement, and then you guys come at us because things are not working quickly while we had to put every one of these projects through procurement and go through that process. That's the reason why that $100,000 was raised, or why we approved it as council. So again, the top operating officer of the city can do things quickly and more efficiently. Not for us, but for you. Okay? And I believe in my research, I found out that Sandy Springs, I believe, city manager had about $150,000 before she had to go to council for any approval. The communication thing. All of us have newsletters. Councilman Reeves even holds a show every Monday night to speak to residents. We have all put these budget hearings in our newsletters and the millage rate hearings in the newsletters. So I'm not sure, I get it. Some people may not use the internet. So one of the things that I have talked to the city manager about is how can we increase our non-internet-based communication? Telephone, I would have loved to see us do a mailer with the schedule for these hearings. So next year, that's possibly something we can do. But again, we are learning as we go. This is my first set of budget hearings that are in person because last year we did them virtually. So I've learned some things. But again, I would love to see us do a mailer with the schedule so that everyone can have it, stick on your refrigerator, and decide how you're going to work your schedule so that you can attend more of these meetings, right? And with regards to my personal use of my P cards, but again, as I said last council meeting, I am willing for it to be published anywhere on the internet. I have not been asked to pay anything back. I use that P card to operate the business of the city. And if anyone have questions about it, they can come and ask questions about it of me. But again, if you don't know what you don't know, ask questions. And I know the answers are going to be there. And I feel accountable to the voters of District 4 and of the rest of this city. And I would never do anything knowingly to violate that trust for what folks have put in there. I am not here to make money. I'm, you know, I've asked my colleagues in joke before, where are you all getting all this money? Because people keep saying you all are millionaires and enriching yourselves. I have a job that I do every day. As a matter of fact, I have 2 full-time jobs because this city council thing, it's a full-time job. And I have a full-time career. And, you know, I've been constantly asked, how do I get all of that thing done? And I just say, with God's help, because I am here to serve. I ran for office to serve you, the people of this city. So, I want to thank you for attending this meeting, and thank you for listening. And by the way, Madam City Manager, last thing, awesome job figuring out how we cut this budget so that we can give the cities back, the citizens back a little money, right? I was at a community meeting this past Saturday, and I spoke that this city was cutting the millage rate for the first time in its history, and you should have been there to hear the applause from the citizens. So regardless of how much money it is, people are appreciative that at least we've taken that step. So once again, thank you for making the adjustment. Thank you.
District 5, Councilman Reeves.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing me. Madam Subadan, great job. And trying to do your best to attempt to reconcile and come up with this budget. As far as the P card expenses, I even asked if mine could be on my website, that I can publish it to be transparent. I was told I couldn't do that, so he can file a request. I don't even hold on to my P card. My administration does, because I believe in checks and balances. And one of the things is that we do have, and one of our primary functions of this job is fiduciary. And so I do hold that to the public trust to the best of my ability. And as far as any irregularities on my P card, you can ask my statements for all 4 years, and we can justify each expense. And thank you.
District 6, Mayor Pro Tem Williams Brown.
Thank you, Mayor, for recognizing me. I have no comments.
Thank you. District 7, Councilwoman Pritchett.
Thank you for acknowledging me, Mr. Mayor. I guess in response to some of the comments that I've heard this morning, I think that it's very sad that some people would characterize our efforts and our actions as nothing, when I think that there are a lot of positive and great things happening in the city. I know that in District 7, since I've been here over the last 9 months, actually 10 months, that there's been a traffic light that went up that's saving lives, that there was a house that was demolished in Lake Royale subdivision, which eliminated the blight there. There have been street sweepers that go throughout the city and collect trash and debris off of the streets, where I've received numerous emails and phone calls about how Old National Highway does look better, that there is some improvement. Since I've been here over the last 10 months, I've taken on, not the responsibility, but I feel that food insecurity is a very serious issue, and a lot of people are suffering through that. And I've been able to have food giveaways about every other week, where we provide over 300 pounds of food to families, actually throughout the city, because I partner with other districts as well. We've fed people that can't afford food. I've had people come to me and say that they didn't have anything in their refrigerator and they didn't have any money. And they were appreciative when they were able to get good, healthy food. I've seen seniors excited about getting healthy food. The trash program, I see a lot of people throughout the city that are very excited about the trash program. The fact that everyone will have trash service, that it's affordable trash service, that it's professional trash service. There are a lot of great things that are going on in this city. But unfortunately, like some of my colleagues have mentioned before, we're in election season and things are politicized. People create their own narrative. People decide to create their own set of facts, despite the true facts. And I find that to be sad, because I receive countless numbers of compliments and from residents throughout the city that are very pleased with the efforts that we put forth, and so do our employees in the city. I met with a resident yesterday, and I didn't really feel well enough to do that, but I took her concerns to be very serious and very important. I also have found it sad, and I will mention this just for the sake of people understanding what we go through. 2 weeks ago, or almost 2 weeks ago, I was in a bad car accident where I was rear-ended, and it was a very bad car accident. And there are people that are on social media that put a picture of a car on fire, and they're saying that I wrecked a city vehicle. That picture is not a real picture of the accident that I had. There are real pictures. And it's just unfortunate that people will go to extraordinary lengths to discredit others, to exaggerate situations, to make it seem like we're not doing our jobs. But despite all of that, I am still very enthusiastic about the budget that Madam Subadan has put together, the rollback that we adopted, or that we decided on, and the ways that we're going to help improve the quality of life throughout our districts. And we're going to see the improvement of the delivery of municipal services. So I would encourage you all to just take a second look, just see things that are actually looking a lot better than they used to, and just give us some grace and allow us the opportunity to show you what good government looks like, because we will meet those expectations. And I yield.
Well, first let me say, Councilwoman Pritchard, I didn't know that you had been through all of that this weekend. I didn't know that you had been through all of that, and we are certainly glad that you are okay. I'm going to circle back now to District 1, Councilwoman Dr. Rao.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't want to rehash because I think my colleagues have really covered much of what needed to be said. I did want to clarify the fact that the trash bill is for a year, not 6 months. And also, I have a couple questions. I think as it relates to track records, I think mine speaks for itself. I also want to take this opportunity to dispel a myth that is circulating. There is no proposal for Wallace Road for 600 townhomes. I think everybody on this council has gotten a call. Again, false information being put out. We've got to do better as a community to fact check. So much of our information actually is on the website. The meetings for this was published over a month ago. I just think we can all do a little, it needs to be give and take on both sides. The public doing the due diligence and also picking up the phone to ask. I'm grateful for those citizens who called to ask me, and I could tell them right on the spot that that wasn't accurate information, but we all have phone numbers, we can all be reached, and we're all approachable. So whether it's a phone call or email, that's what we're here for. City Manager, I do have a couple questions that I want to clarify. On page 12, you have under the enterprise funds or the special funds, does that cover the public art fund and the dedicated fund so we can clearly see what comes in from Wolf Creek and out as expenditures?
It would be in special fund.
Okay. And then, although we haven't gotten to it, I didn't see it mention the benefits recommendation. Are there cost savings associated that help with this budget?
There are no cost savings with new benefits.
Cost neutral, maybe?
We are, the HR director is going to be presenting. We are trying to make it as revenue neutral as possible.
Okay.
We believe we can accommodate it if you approve what we're presenting, it can be accommodated in the budget, but our renewal came in considerably higher for our existing plans.
Okay.
So we're making an alternate recommendation.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I had a full picture before. Thank you. I don't have any other comments or questions.
I do have one more question, Mayor, if you don't mind.
Okay, Councilwoman Willis, District 3.
At the end of, in the summer, we adopted a measure, a paid internship program, and I know we said that at that particular time we were going to use salary savings, but is there any way that we can budget, or do we have anything we can budget to ensure that at least we have some paid internship roles under the clerk and under your office, because at this time we would not have any funding to fund that program, and one of the reasons we wanted to, most of us supported the paid internship program is because we will be working with local universities so that we can introduce students to municipal government, which is nationwide, suffering with shortages of employment, of employees and having a challenging time backfilling roles. I was speaking to a mayor of another metro Atlanta city, and she said that, you know, when she lost her city manager to go to another city, that basically wiped out all of her personnel, and she has to pretty much, she's struggling trying to replace her personnel. As we go to Georgia Municipal Association, National League of Cities, they all are saying the same thing, that there is not really an employee pool, enough employee pool to staff a lot of the cities, and a lot of the employees are bouncing around from city to city looking for the highest bidder. And so one of the reasons we wanted to have a paid internship program working with the area universities was to try to introduce our students that are matriculating through college and graduating to municipal government with the hopes that they will come and work for our city.
We did put funding in the clerk's budget for interns.
Thank you.
All right. Madam City Manager, I do have a couple of questions, but first I just wanted to amplify some of my council's comments. First of all, thank you all for all of your comments and all of your feedback, positive or negative. Thank you for at least being cordial when you've given us this constructive criticism. And we have taken some of it to heart. We've lowered the millage rate. We have made some of the exact cuts that were requested by residents in these hearings. So this is a resident-focused and a resident-driven budget, and this is just a wonderful process. So thank you again, Madam City Manager, for just orchestrating such a wonderful and interactive process. I want to actually underline points that were made by Councilwoman Willis, that we do pay for a lot of things out of our budget. So I have never been a mayor before, and I am learning. Hopefully I'm getting better. And I do a lot of learning, and I attend a lot of conferences. One of them is a U.S. Conference of Mayors. It's really amazing. Not only can you just learn a lot and meet wonderful mentors, I've met a lot of incredible men like Mayor Woodfin and the mayor of Montgomery, who is up for election now. But the fee for being in the U.S. Conference of Mayors is based on the size of the city. And actually a lot of the fees for a lot of the national conferences that we go to are based on the size of the city. The fee for the U.S. Conference of Mayors is $10,000 annually, right? So these are not cheap things, and you can't put that on a card with a $1,000 limit. So that's why we're raising the limits, though not necessarily like the salaries, because these are some of the big bills that we have to cover to get better. The paid intern program is another one that, you know, until we had this money secured through the clerk's office, many of us were looking to try and figure out how are we going to pay to get more young people in, because that is, everybody wants to get paid more. Everything costs more than it did just a few years ago. So we are trying to employ some of our young people in the city, in this government. So if you have some young people, this is a little advertisement for that. If you have some young people, please reach out to us and you know, let us know so that we can get them involved as some of you are in what is going on in our government. Madam City Manager, the first question I had for you was about the sanitation bill. It is for a year. Is it for the July through July? Would you just clarify?
June through May.
June through May of next year. So it is for a year. It's not January through December, but for the year that you got the service. I do think, though, that I want to talk a little bit about official sources for information, and I think the city is always the best source and the most comprehensive and up-to-date source for information. So all of us are putting out newsletters. I'm sending out text alerts. My apologies, Ms. Denson, if they don't reach you in time. I'm going to work on that. But the best place to get official data is from the city. And I do think if we are sending out, again, this is just, my pitch for this, I know it's in the works, but if we are sending out a quarterly paper newsletter that people can see and they know that this is something that I need to save, even if they throw it out the first time, because y'all be throwing out our mail sometimes, because we've mailed a lot of these things to you. But if, people just get used to it coming and saying, like, I need to save this, they're going to be important dates. I think that that's another way to do things. We have someone new on the video screen, so if you can follow me, that's great. But I do want to take a moment. We talk about the website all the time, but I just want to take a little moment of political education privilege. Our city website is cityofsouthfultonga.gov. I just want to highlight two of the very important things that you will find on that site that I've heard a lot of discussion about in these meetings. And that is, number one, where to find information about these meetings. So if you're on cityofsouthfultonga.gov on the desktop, the menu item is going to be on the top right there, and you will see departments, and the first department will be city clerk. If you are on, if you're on an iPhone, I can't help it if you're on an Android, but the menu icon is there on the left, and you can find departments in city clerk. And the first thing that you will see under, after a very detailed explanation of what a city clerk is and what they do, are the meeting minutes and the agenda packets for all of our meetings in real time. So as soon as they are put out, this is where you will find out everything that's going to be discussed in the meeting. If you click around a little bit further on the website, you'll actually see the notices. You can actually see when we put the notice out. And so please, please, please use all of our resources, but always use this city website as well. And the next one that I'm going to point you to is solid waste or sanitation. It will be called different things, but under the departments, it's the last department on the list. The first thing that you will see here is a message about the Labor Day trash. Ms. Denson, I didn't realize that as well, and that's my fault. I should know these things, but I got it at the last minute. I said, let me send out a text alert for everyone who didn't maybe know to look here on the website. But for all of us, this is where, if you have any questions or any doubts, we are privately contracting this company, right? So they're not city employees, which means that they do not necessarily follow the holiday calendar that we follow. So all the information that you need to know about bulk trash collection day. We do have 2 collection days coming up on the 9th at Merck Miles in District 2, and then on the 16th, is that correct, in Creel? Do I have that correct? Or
no, I don't think we've scheduled the one for District 6.
Okay.
For September, we just had one on the 26th.
I'm sorry, and I'm not looking at the website. It is District 7 at Tri-County Plaza on the 16th. But again, all this information. Yeah, and I said District 1. I said that's the one on the 9th. That's the first one I said. And so all of this is on the city's website. If you have any questions, I promise you 99% of what you are looking for is somewhere on that website. And we're working on that 1%, I know, Madam City Manager. And so with that, I want to thank everybody for their comments. And I also want to just amplify Councilman Sebastian's comments. This is a full-time job. I think one of the biggest myths that you have seen in the media is that our charter says that this is a part-time job. And we've had a lot of turnover on our council. Half of our council is brand new. Not one person will tell you this is a part-time job, right? This is a very big city. We are undertaking a very big thing, trying to stand up an entire government, and it's a full-time job. So thank you all. Thank you for your comments. And with that, I'm going to yield to Mayor Pro Tem Williams-Brown.
Thank you, Mayor, for recognizing me. We spend a lot of time, Mayor, telling residents where they can find information. And of course, on the other side of that coin, residents insist that they don't know things. And what I've noticed, I know, yes. Y'all gotta fix the air. Is that better? Okay. What I've noticed is that one person or two people will say they didn't get something, and then they will extrapolate that because they individually didn't get something, then therefore we are not communicating. When I think the reality is all of us are sending out information, posting information. We're all posting the same things on social media. We are all sending out newsletters. We are all doing the things to try to reach residents. And one of the beautiful things about some of the tools that we use is there's back-end analytics that tells us what our engagement rate is. And so what I can share is that I send out 4,457 emails when I'm emailing newsletters and announcements and alerts. The email open rate, 20 to 25% routinely. I just recently had somebody reach out to me about an issue, and when I went to see if they were on my email list, they were. Of the 67 email announcements and alerts that they've gotten, they've opened exactly 7. In a year and a half, they've opened 7. And the particular issue that they were contacting me about, they opened it twice on the day that they received it. And yet still somehow it is a failure of the council that they did not act in a timely manner on the information they read twice on the day it was sent. I just want us to understand, as a collectively, we can communicate. We can tell people where to get information. We can make excuses about, oh, they don't have internet, oh, they don't have this, they don't have that. The reality is people are not engaging with the information that we are sending out. And that is not a council problem. That is a public problem. I cannot go to 15,000 houses, knock on your door, and spoon feed you the information. I sent out 4,457 emails, and my open rate was 24%. That's not a council problem. That is a public problem. And at some point, we have got to be engaged as citizens, because everything is not the council's fault. I yield.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Pro Tem Williams-Brown. Councilman Sebastian, you had one point of clarification.
Yeah, I just wanted to, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to clarify something because I thought I heard it earlier. I could have been mistaken. But on that city's website are our 4 holidays that affect the schedule of sanitation collection. And I'm reading off the website. Independence Day, July 4th, Thanksgiving Day, 4th Thursday in November, Christmas, December 25th, and New Year's Day, January 1st. So I don't want somebody to hear something, misunderstand that this is a different week. We are on a regular collection schedule this week, and if staff could confirm that right now so it be on the record, right? Please confirm it. If Mr. Burkett is here or anybody else in Public Works, Madam City Manager, can you just confirm that for us, that it is indeed a regular week?
This is a regular week.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Seeing and hearing no other comments, Mr. Clerk, please, I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, please sound the next item.
Mayor, next item is item number 3, first read of ordinance adopting the FY 2024 budget.
Madam City Manager.
It's on me to read.
All right. Just didn't know if you had anything to add. So this is a first read. We are going to have a second read on September the 12th, Tuesday in the evening. Be there.
All right.
All right. Please sound the next item, Madam Clerk.
Madam, Mr. Mayor, did you want me to read the ordinance? Okay. An ordinance to adopt the fiscal year 2024 budget for each.
No. The next item on the agenda. Sorry.
Item number 5 is request approval of revised. Item number 4, request approval for FY 2024 employee benefits renewal, human resources.
One moment. I should have conferred with our city attorney. Does she need to read the entire ordinance?
She does. She at least needs to sound it. This is first read, so she needs to sound it.
Go ahead and sound that ordinance.
Okay. An ordinance to adopt the fiscal year 2024 budget for each fund of the city of South Fulton, Georgia, appropriating the amounts shown in each fund as expenditures, expenses, adopting the several items of revenue anticipations, prohibiting expenditures or expenses for exceeding the actual funding available and for other lawful purposes.
All right. Now, please sound the next item.
Item number 4, request approval FY 2024 employee benefits renewal, human resources.
Good morning, Mayor and Council, staff, and residents. Patricia Redfern, Human Resources Director. So we have before you our recommendations for the benefits renewal for the upcoming fiscal year, which, as you know, resets on October 1. So to give you a little background and history, next slide, please. Our current plan structures were rolled over from Fulton County, so they aren't really aligned with our model. With about 700 total budgeted positions, you normally wouldn't see a split model with 2 different medical plan carriers. Our goal is to move towards a self-funded structure, which we are in a position fiscally to be able to do, but we need to continue working on building our internal structures to be able to really carry that out effectively. The first step in doing this is to move the group to one plan. One plan allows for better reporting so that we can build a stronger self-funded plan and save money in the long run. So when reviewing our current plan and alternative options, we were considering access to care, cost to employees, and the cost to the city as well. Next slide, please. Currently, we have 240 employees on our Kaiser medical plan and 178 on the Anthem medical plan. What our reporting has shown is that the most utilization is coming from the Anthem side. Our Kaiser members are not utilizing their benefits as much as our Anthem members. Therefore, the Anthem renewal on a split plan came back at a 40% increase. Anthem declined to quote a total replacement. Kaiser quoted an 11% increase on the split, And at the end of last week, they actually revised their total replacement. It's now at a 13% increase for a total replacement from Kaiser, and they have offered to waive the first month's premium, just so that you guys have the most current and up-to-date information on that. The increase is due to the potential for more costly claims coming from the Anthem side and the lack of cohesive reporting available to both of these carriers due to our current split model. Next slide, please. So I know this is a lot of numbers and it's really small, so I'll try to sum it up for you. On the left, we have our current rates. On the right would be the renewal if we make no changes. In the center there in red is the current percentage share that the city pays for. So as you can see, if we move forward with no changes across the board for employees and the city, we see increases if we keep everything as is. Next slide, please. Our recommendation is a total replacement with Cigna. With this total replacement, we would remove the HSA and HMO options. We currently have 51 employees who participate in the HSA. So having that remain as an option essentially moves all of our employees to only having 2 options because it just doesn't prove to be a popular option for our group. The HMO option was something we explored with Cigna, but the difference in cost for an HMO and PPO with Cigna was literally just a couple of dollars a month, and it didn't seem worth it to limit access to care and force employees to remain in network for such a negligible difference. So what we did was looked at increasing the city's share to minimize the impact to employees. On our top tier plan with the $500 deductible, there's actually a decrease in cost to all employees and the city at all levels. For the mid-tier plan, the $1,500 Cigna deductible plan, the employee only and employee plus children rates do go down with a slight increase on the other 2. The Cigna $2,500 deductible plan, when compared to the HMO, does see a slight increase, but again, we increased the employer share to 82% to minimize that increase to the employers. Next slide, please. We adjusted the cost shares from 75.2 on the top tier plan, 79.6 on the mid-tier HSA plan, and 78.5. So this is just a recap of those 2 slides. Next slide, please. Where we will see the savings to pay for that increase are on all of the ancillary services and benefits. So moving everything over to Cigna lowered the medical increase to about 6.5% with Cigna versus our current structure, but we saw decreases on many of the other plans. So dental was reduced by 6%, vision was reduced by 4%, short-term disability, which the city does cover for all employees, was reduced by 24%, and there are also additional savings on the employee-only paid benefits, voluntary life, critical illness, accident, and hospital. Next slide, please. Cigna offers about a 99.8% reliability of no disruption in service for the Anthem members. Obviously, our Kaiser members will see a disruption in service. They will have to move to the Cigna plan if this recommendation is adopted. So we will see some disruption and hiccups there for those members. But again, what we saw was much less utilization from our Kaiser members than our Anthem members, leading us down the path of our employees are choosing Kaiser because it's the cheapest option. What we wanted to make sure that we did, again, going back to looking at access to care, was ensure that we chose a network that provided all employees with local access to care so they didn't have to drive 20 or 30 miles to find the closest facility. So while Anthem did decline to quote the total replacement, Kaiser did quote it, but it would minimize access to care for some of our employees. Some of the complaints additionally, in addition to just proximity to a Kaiser facility was access to mental health benefits. So with Kaiser, we were finding sometimes it would take months for an employee to get an appointment to see a mental health professional. They had limited resources as far as what they would pay for outpatient services or rehabilitation services that employees needed. And again, we want to make sure that we're on a broad national network with access to care for our employees and any dependents they may have living out of state. Kaiser doesn't operate nationwide, they're only in 8 or 9 states. Combining the populations into one plan allows for better reporting and a better roadmap towards a self-funded option, which is what we should be working towards right now. The goal of self-funded will allow for flexibility in plan design, meaning that we can really look at cost savings with prescription coverage and what resources we need to pay for our group, and then also additional cost savings for us down the road. Next slide, please. I am happy to answer any questions you have. I also have our brokers on the call if you have any specific questions about the bidding process.
Thank you, Ms. Redfern. I am going to get this queue open, but while I'm doing that, I want to just start by saying thank you, thank you, thank you. That is, first of all, the presentation was excellent, but what you have done is excellent. And I really have to disagree with some of the detractors that I've heard today. In the midst of historic inflation, this city has returned money back in the form of property taxes, but has also raised the wages of our own city workers to the highest in not just the state, but in the Southeast, and cut insurance costs. So to be doing all of this at such a difficult financial time, I think that our city does deserve a little credit for being progressive and professional. So thank you for that. I am going to Councilman Sebastian has just reminded me that our District 63 State Representative Deborah Bazemore has entered. Would you just stand and let everyone recognize you? 69. 69. Thank you so much. All right, do you have that queue, Madam Clerk? First, does everyone have access to the queue? Is the queue working for everyone today? I don't see anyone in there, so. Okay, so right now I'll just run down. It looks like folks are still getting in the queue. D1, you have any questions?
I don't.
All right, District 2, Councilwoman Gomes?
I did. So will the HSA be available on the Cigna plan?
No, we did not bid out an HSA option. If you currently have an HSA, the funds in your account are still available. They're still yours to use. The HSA funds don't expire, but we will have an FSA as still.
Okay. And then also too, I know with the Kaiser plan, there was some, I guess, health benefit incentives.
Yes.
Will Cigna have that same?
Yes, Kaiser provides us with $65,000 in wellness funds. Cigna is offering us $60,000 in wellness funds annually.
Awesome. So I want to say you have done a good job on this, and this does make me feel a lot better about what you're doing. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
District 3, Councilman Willis.
Thank you for recognizing me. The Sigma, did I understand correctly to hear you say that with Sigma, employees will not be forced to be in a network. They will have pretty much a PPO option.
Yes, so Cigna does provide for out-of-network coverage.
Okay. So they will provide an in-network coverage and an out-network coverage.
Correct.
Okay. And with Cigna, this is inclusive of medical, dental, and vision?
Yes, so what we're proposing is a total replacement to move all benefits to Cigna to capture the additional cost savings. So dental, vision, life, disability, all of them.
Okay, and this is as of 10/1?
October 1, yes.
Okay, thank you. And so one last question. So the open enrollment period will be as of?
As soon as we have a decision, we will have dates this month.
Okay, so the open enrollment period will probably, once approved, take place between now and October 1?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. District 4, Councilman Sebastian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Redfern, thank you again for the job that you have done with this, you and staff. I'm just curious when I see certain things or certain numbers, I just have a kind of curious mind as to why. You mentioned the reason we're going to one plan, that's clear. We should. I support that. But I wanted to know why were the Anthem employees skewed towards certain departments of the city, and maybe that's why their claims were, or it was just all?
No, it wasn't any specific department that showed favoritism towards Anthem. It was just the employees who utilize their benefits more and tend to have more costly claims. And my thought process on that would be because of their access to coverage.
Access was the issue. Okay, thank you. That helps me. Thank you.
All right, District 5, Councilman Reeves.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. Is that question that following up, was that the employee feedback that you received?
So we have not polled the entire employee group. We looked at reporting and we looked at enrollments.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just going to hop in and just clarify. The Kaiser model is an HMO model. You have to use their doctors. If you go outside of their network, it's very expensive, or it's prohibited, or you have no coverage. The Anthem model allowed people to go wherever they wanted to go, and so what it sounds like what you're saying is that the data is showing that our employees prefer that choice.
It's showing that the employees who use that option use their benefits more.
Got you. Thank you so much. Very well said. I just wanted to clarify that for if there was any confusion about that up here. Mayor Pro Tem Williams Brown. No questions? No questions or comments? Okay. District 7, Councilwoman Pritchett.
Thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Redfern, this was a great presentation. Recently we had spoken about a benefit, not a benefit, but kind of a benefit issue that pertains to the council related to workers' compensation. Could you elaborate on that so that the council would know what that issue is? Or would this be the proper place? No? Not, okay. I withdraw.
We'll get you that update. We'll get you that update. All right. Seeing and hearing no further questions, I do just have one follow-up question, again about open enrollment. And this is, I'm sure this will be in that daily drip, so to all of my fellow employees, got to read that daily drip. But if you are, and I'm just underlining this point for all of my coworkers, if you don't pay a lot of attention to open enrollment because you like, I'm gonna keep what I got, it doesn't change, nothing has changed since last year, you definitely need to participate, because the options that you may have had may not exist after October 1. So please do not, this is not an enrollment period like others. This is like none other.
Correct, and we've briefed the department heads on that fact, that if there's a change, there is no rollover or carryover of benefits. We've also planned for the department to be on site at different work centers once open enrollment is available, so that we can sit down with employees in different groups who may not check their emails on a regular basis and catch them as they're coming into work.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. All right. And for those of you all who think that we aren't listening, Madam Deputy Clerk, please sound the next item.
Mr. Mayor, next item is number 5, request approval of a revised purchasing card policy and travel policy. City Manager.
Hold on a second. We need to vote. They need to vote to accept our recommendation on the benefits so that we can
Yes, thank you so much, Madam City Manager. I will entertain, this is a special call meeting, so voting is allowed. I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the fiscal year 2024 employee benefits renewal and the revised purchasing card policy and travel policy.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, let's just take a vote by a show of hands. That looks unanimous.
Mr. Mayor, I write that down as unanimous.
Thank you. All right, you sound that item one more time.
Number 5, request approval of revised purchasing card policy and travel policy. City Manager.
Thank you. Again, more proof that we are listening to you. Let's talk P-cards, Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The P-card policy has been shared. It's been in the legislative portal. We discussed it in our meeting on the 22nd. Some adjustments, I believe, were made based on your input, and we did not adopt it that night. Everybody wanted more time to have the opportunity to look at it. We have taken recommendations from the audit. We've taken your recommendations as a body, and it has been reviewed and now presented for you along with an updated travel policy for your consideration.
All right, if there are no questions, I see the queue is empty. I will entertain a motion.
I motion to approve the revised purchasing card policy and travel policy.
I already did that.
All right, well, we've got a motion. If there's a second, I'll open
Second.
for discussion.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Discussion, Mr. Mayor.
All right, the chair recognizes District 4 Councilman Sebastian.
I will vote to approve this, but there are certain things in principle that I'm not in agreement with when it comes to this policy. As I mentioned this morning, I've been elected. I'm accountable to the citizens of this city, and specifically to the people of District 4. A citizen mentioned it this morning. The org chart for our city, are citizens at the top, the council and the mayor, city manager, employees. There's a certain provision in this policy that speaks towards having to ask for approval for certain type of spending, and some of it is small. It's just the type of activity. And I personally have an issue with it, because what it's going to do with our busy lives, it's not an accountability thing, because accountability still is in place, is to have me to seek approval, even if it means I get a call and I have to execute something right away for a citizen. I have an issue with that. I will try to follow the policy as close as I can, but anytime and every time I have issue with it, I will be reporting it out. Not only reporting it to this body and to the city manager, but I will also report it to the public. Because I honestly thought where we were going with this policy, we were going to discuss it in a work session and flush some of these issues out. And I said this to the clerk once the agenda was published, that I thought this policy was going to be up for some additional discussions. And yes, we have the process, legislative process, but there's nothing like sitting in a room and talking with the colleagues and with staff and with the public listening and hearing. So, with that said, we'll adopt this policy, but I'm still not in agreement that it's a finished work, because we've had several examples where we rush into legislation that has come back to bite us in the butt. And I just think this one has not been flushed out properly. And that's my opinion. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councilman Sebastian. Dr. Rao, the chair recognizes District 1. Councilwoman Dr. Rao.
I think that was an old one, because my motion had covered both.
Okay, I'm going to refresh my queue. I see that you are in it. You know what? We'll just go by a show of hands. Anyone else have any questions, comments? All right, the chair recognizes District 3, Councilwoman Willis.
So just to add context around this, I understand Councilmember Sebastian's concerns and respect his concerns, but this has been a ongoing discussion that predates Ms. Subadan. Council members Rao and Williams and I met with the city attorney, the city clerk, and the former city manager, and it was a lunch meeting because it lasted for over 6 hours, and we went through the P-card policy line by line, page by page, and discovered that there were some things in the P-card policy that needed to be strengthened. I do believe that this is a good start, and I do believe that, you know, we may have some unforeseen circumstances that may arise as a result of this policy, but when they do, I would ask that, you know, we bring them to the council and the city manager and let her address them. I have found going to the city manager, she's been reasonable, and as the city manager, she has given direction when there has not been, when there's not a lot of clarity in areas. And so, again, this policy is necessary to protect residents from liability that may arise without policies in place from everybody, from the elected officials, from the employees, and even to the city manager. I have seen several within the last couple of months, municipalities go through legal turmoil due to issues with P-cards, including our mother city. I've seen people go to prison. I've seen people get indicted. I've seen, you know, news reports that the GBI and the FBI are in municipalities investigating. The GBI and the FBI is not in our city, contrary to what was posted. The GBI is not investigating anybody in the city or the FBI. And this policy is simply to make sure that doesn't happen. So thank you, Ms. Subadan. I know that this is a new policy. It's going to take some time for us to get used to all of the particulars in it, and any problems that arise, I will bring to your attention. And but this is to protect all of us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Just a quick note to our city attorney. You know, we're in a public meeting. Everybody's in our house. Let's make sure that we're not opening any cabinets or doors. We don't need to. The chair recognizes Mayor Pro Tem Williams Brown.
Thank you, Mayor, for recognizing me. I think I won't repeat the things Councilwoman Willis said, because I think she laid out the process very thoroughly of how we got to this document. But one point that I do want to bring up, and I've had this conversation, Ms. Subadan, with you a couple of times, is we can put these policies in place to try to address some of the problems and the issues that we have had. But policies without consequences are meaningless. And one of the things I believe I've observed in the year and 8-ish months that I've been on council is things happen that should not happen, and then there are no consequences for the behavior. And all of us who are parents know that it is incumbent upon us to help our kids realize that if they behave in certain ways and they do certain things, there's consequences. You know, I'm not an advocate for hitting children. You know, I've told my daughter that only time you put your hands on somebody is if they put their hands on you first, and then in the words of Malcolm X, you send them to the cemetery. But these things continue to happen because nothing ever happens to the individuals who are committing the infractions. And so I want to amplify once again, we can pass this, but unless and until there are consequences, real consequences, it's going to continue to happen. And I agree with Councilman Sebastian that it's not fair to visit collective punishment on a group when only one or maybe two people have committed the offense. So in the wake of adopting this new policy, I would ask that we have a serious conversation about what are the consequences for what has already happened and what are the consequences going to be when it happens again. Because in the absence of that, it is going to happen again, and we're going to continue to have this same conversation next year because nobody will deal with the problem at its root. And until you root it out, it's going to keep sprouting branches. So please, I would implore us to not just pass a policy, but put some teeth in it so people understand if you do this, there is going to be a consequence. We're gonna take your Xbox and your cell phone. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to ask everybody to refresh their queue, but we're going by a show of hands now. I saw District 2, Councilwoman Gumbs.
Mine is more of operational. I believe that we already approved this ordinance, so do we need to repeal that? We approved it in the first one. I don't know if you all need to roll the tape back. Right. But in Councilwoman Rao's motion for the approval of the employee benefits, she's also asked for us to approve the purchasing card policy, which that's what we voted on. So yeah. If we were all unaware of that, then we need to repeal that particular motion and do things in decency and order. So I don't know if you need to replay the tape back.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gumbs. That is a point of order for our parliamentarian.
She can read the motion, I said.
Could you read the motion, because I didn't catch all of what Councilwoman Gumbs just mentioned.
When Councilmember Rao did the motion, she requested approval for the FY 2024 employee benefits renewal and the purchasing card policy and travel policy.
Was it second? What was the second?
It was second by Councilmember Gumbs.
Okay.
And it was a unanimous vote.
Okay.
I make a motion to repeal. Is that proper?
If they want to change their vote.
Second.
Yeah.
Are y'all trying to change our votes?
She made a motion and I seconded it. We're still in.
I withdraw my motion then.
Item number 5 was motion by Councilmember Pritchett and second by Williams Brown.
Then I withdraw my motion. Mr.
Okay.
Mayor?
A motion has been withdrawn and a substitute motion has been made.
Mr. Mayor?
All in combination, so we gotta slow down.
Gotta slow down.
We've got a substitute motion and a repeal. We're gonna take them in reverse order. So this motion has been repealed to do this second approval. And we have a substitute motion to reconsider. Is that what we're, what I think I'm hearing is that there is anyone can do it because everyone was in the affirmative, can make a substitute motion to reconsider the approval of the purchasing. And I'm hearing that we need to carry the repeal. Mr. Parliamentarian?
I think what I heard Councilman Williams state, in lack of technical terms, there needs to be a motion to reconsider, rescind the previous motion because it's still present in this body, and then vote on the new motion.
Okay.
Just so that everybody is reported accurately.
Right, that's fine.
All right, so on the floor, we have a substitute motion to rescind the current motion being debated, which is a second approval of this item that we've already approved, for those of you all who are following at home. Any further discussion on this motion? Dr. Rao?
I just want to clarify then, we need to make a separate motion to improve the employee benefits renewal.
That'll come later.
Yes. So what do we do? There's a motion on the floor with Councilwoman Willis.
I had stepped out, but it sounds
Well, it
like
was mine, but she
council had coupled the motions, just decouple them.
Okay,
Move
so
to
do I
do
need to make a
the
motion to
benefits and then
rescind?
move, yes.
So that's where I was moving. So let's just clear this up. We've actually approved both of these things. We can entertain a substitute motion now to reconsider the second one, and that will open us up for reconsideration without disturbing the approval of the first one. Is that correct?
The first motion or action that you took has to be rescinded as a carry, and then you can correct it with the next motion.
So, Mr. Parliamentarian, what is your recommended motion that be made right at this time?
There was a motion to rescind and reconsider that. I think you're waiting on the vote to see if that carries. So the vote needs to be taken.
All right, let's take that vote. We'll go. Let's take a roll call vote. It doesn't look like it's going to be unanimous. Dr. Rao?
Yeah, that's fine. You gonna do roll call?
Yes. Councilwoman Gumbs? Councilwoman Willis?
Yes.
Councilman Sebastian?
Yes.
Councilman Reeves?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Williams Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pritchett?
Yes.
That carries as unanimous.
Okay, and we are carrying, what motion exactly did we just carry?
Mayor?
I'm going to ask our deputy clerk to just read for the record.
We carried the first, from what I understand, we carried the first approval for the FY 2024 employee benefits renewal. That was carried and was unanimous. Then we came back to rescind the second part of the vote, which was revised purchasing card policy and travel policy. And that was unanimous. Is that not correct?
Yeah.
Everything was rescinded.
4 and 5.
So the council, do you agree with the council, Mr. Parliamentarian? You're the parliamentarian and our attorney.
I agree with what just happened. I think the recording, both of them were combined, and so that's been rescinded for you guys to start over, for lack of a better word.
Mayor?
Okay, so our parliamentarian has ruled that we have now voided both votes. And we are going to I will now entertain a motion to approve the FY24 employee benefits renewal.
Mr. Mayor, motion to approve
Second.
FY24 employee benefits renewal.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Okay, Dr. Rao.
Yes.
Seeing and hearing none. Madam Clerk, we're calling the vote now. District 1, Dr. Rao.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2, Carmelita Gomes. Honorable Willis, District 3.
Yes.
Honorable Sebastian, District 4.
Yes.
Honorable Reeves, District 5.
Aye.
Honorable Natasha Williams Brown, number 6.
Yes.
Honorable Linda Pritchett, District 7.
Yes.
That is 6-1, Mayor.
All right. And now I will entertain an entirely separate, unrelated motion for this P-card policy.
I move to approve the revised purchasing card policy and travel policy as presented by City Manager.
Second.
I have discussion.
It's been properly moved and seconded. There is discussion. Councilwoman Willis.
So I just want to make one clarification and one quick point. There is consequences when the P-card policy is violated. There is, when we are issued P-card policies, there is an affidavit that we all are supposed to sign stating if the P-card policy is violated, the P-card is suspended, and the city manager has authority to suspend the P-card. Am I correct, Mrs. Subadan?
I don't have it in front of me, but that's my recollection on the ordinance.
Okay. There's also consequences that can be taken legally and ethically. In our charter, House Representative, former House Representative William Bodie was the one that led the charge to reform the ethics ordinance, financial ethics ordinance that's in the charter. You know, maybe we need to do some type of education on how to properly file ethics violations. And I don't want people to take it the wrong way or think it's something bad. Whenever a citizen has concern or anybody on this council has a concern about something, they have a right to file a ethics complaint. You know, it's not something that is punitive. I mean, most of the ethics complaints that have been filed have been thrown out because what was discussed and brought before the board wasn't what was a misunderstanding of the person who filed the ethics complaint. So we do have measures in place when there are violations of the P-card policy. And then lastly, nobody wants this to happen, but you know, our DA does have a public corruption unit. And so if the city manager deems necessary and see that a violation is egregious enough, or if this council feels that the violation is egregious enough, we can take by majority vote to refer this to the public corruption unit with the Fulton County District Attorney. So those are the ramifications of what can happen, and I hope won't happen, but what can happen when people don't follow the P-card policy. I yield.
Anyone else? All right, Councilman Sebastian.
I do have a procedure question. Is there any reason why we're having one vote on the P-card policy and the travel policy? Is there any specific reason for that, or?
That's the adoption of a policy. It's not an ordinance.
It's resolution, it's not ordinance.
Okay, so are there two resolutions that we're voting on or one? Because in my document, there are two different resolutions, I'm saying.
It's two resolutions, it's just average on the agenda, it's shown as on one agenda item, but you have a resolution to approve the travel and a resolution to approve the P-card policy.
Okay, I personally would have liked the opportunity to vote on them separately, but it doesn't matter. I'm just a little confused as to why they are one agenda item and they're two resolutions?
You can have the clerk sound them separately, although it may be publicized. You can have them sound each one separately.
All right, I think we may have some further elucidation by our city manager, Madam City Manager.
The only thing I'd like to say is I thought this was clear, but I feel like it's important to say it for the record. I think last count, we had 48 P-card users in the city. So the council represents 8 of the 48, and the P-card policy is for everyone. And so just like, you know, misuse of the P-card and the consequences of the misuse of the P-card are for everyone. And so it's important that the example is set at the highest levels of the organization, because I will hold every employee who has a P-card accountable to follow these rules. So nothing was created here to be onerous to council or the mayor. This is for accountability for everyone in the city who holds a P-card, which is a privilege. And also I want to say on the record that we have hundreds of employees and a $206 million budget. And in order for us to do the day-to-day business of the city, it is just not possible to flow every purchase through a purchasing department of 2. And when we establish, or unit of 2, when we establish a purchasing department, even fully staffed, it's not practical to flow every item through the procurement department. And that's the purpose of P-cards. But to be clear, the P-card policy is for everyone. And that's why it is written this way, to encourage accountability. I felt like it was important to say that on the record.
So is it a privilege, or is this a necessity? Because I heard you use the word.
Having this much autonomy is a privilege, and it's to be used that way. You know, I think taking away this ability, I mean, there was a time when we didn't have P-cards. And to go to a conference, you had to wait for a check to get, you know, to do a registration. Anybody who was in government at that time remembers how onerous it was to do everything. This allows us to work more consistently with what the citizens expect from us today. They expect things to move quickly. This allows us to have that. So as an employee, as a person representing the government, I believe it is a privilege, but it's one where we expect people to follow the rules as you all adopt the policy.
All right, thank you. I see you, Councilwoman Pritchard. I do just want to take a point of privilege and say, and apologize a little if it seems like we are, you know, giving you a hard time. You are, you know, as elected officials, and a lot of people like to throw around this, I don't care what anybody thinks about me, right? But it is literally our job as elected officials to be concerned about what people think about us. And, you know, you may not be on the next doors and all the things, Madam City Manager, I'm not on most of them either. But many of our council people are, and we are sensitive when people are saying things about you in the media that is untrue. It hurts your feelings, and you want to clear the air. So we just needed a moment to clear the air. I do think it is very important to underline that this is about all of us, all of our employees, not just the council. And it is, and not to necessarily disagree with you, Councilman Sebastian, but to think of it differently. You know, all of this money is your money, right? And so being in any position where we get to make decisions about what you do with your what we do with your hard-earned money is a privilege. And we do thank you for that. And we are going to be more careful going forward, and that is what we are attempting to do with this policy that will govern everyone the same. And with this incredible new city manager who I am certain is not afraid of holding anyone accountable. And with that, the chair recognizes District 7, Councilwoman Pritchett.
So my question is for, well, Madam City Manager, I agree that when you came on, we talked a lot about wanting to have a standard operating procedures and a formalized process. And I do believe that through this policy that it creates process, procedure, and I would like to ask you if between you and Ms. Redfern, if you can put together some type of training so that people who have questions or don't understand the mechanism of P-card procurement, that kind of thing, to educate them, because I think that some of these concerns come from not having the proper tools or education or point of reference to understand why you've come to this point. So is that something that we can also do?
I definitely think having training is important, and there's a other SOP sister to this, which is how to reconcile your P-card in the automated system. And so there will be training that we will go over, because quite honestly, that has not been consistently done either.
Thank you, I yield.
All right, anyone else? Seeing and hearing none. Madam Clerk, please call the vote, roll call vote.
Honorable Rao,
Yes.
District 1.
Yes.
Honorable Gums, District 2. Yes. Honorable Willis, District 3. Yes. Honorable Sebastian, District 4.
We are voting on both resolutions, correct?
Number 5.
Oh, both the travel and the P-card.
Yes. Right, everyone's clear?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Honorable Reeves, District 5. Honorable Williams Brown, District 6.
Yes.
Honorable Pritchett, District 7.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, that is unanimous.
All right, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Pritchett for a special motion.
Yes, I would like to motion for a resolution to approve the Azúcar Music Festival, or Fest, that will take place on October 22nd at Wolf Creek, as the city manager has added that item in the budget and in the 2024 budget. And I am asking for the approval of this citywide event that will be hosted by myself and Councilwoman Gums.
Second.
All right, it has been moved and seconded, and I just to clarify, we're going to amend the agenda to include the following resolution that was sounded. That was your motion, and that is your second, Councilwoman Gums. All right, and does everyone have this resolution, or do we have copies? Do we have copies for folks?
I don't have anything because I believe that this was going to be on the agenda, but I will gladly provide more information.
Okay, Madam Deputy Clerk, do you have this resolution that you can maybe forward to all of us? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, once I get it, I can forward it.
Okay, just send it to her.
She can just move, it doesn't have to travel to the resolution. She can move for council action if you're amending the agenda. It doesn't have to have a resolution. She can just move for this council's action at this time. We traditionally just for tracking like to have a resolution, but it's not mandated if she wants approval for this action that it has to have a resolution.
All right, but there is a resolution, that is correct.
Not at this time.
There isn't a resolution. You want to make a motion about making sure that this festival is included in the budget?
It is, Madam Subadan has included it in the proposed budget under the Hispanic History Month item.
All right.
To be clear.
Okay. The chair recognizes Councilman Sebastian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We just have to be very careful how we conduct the business here. While I recognize the need to have these activities, we still need to make sure the processes and procedures are being followed. Our financial year starts when, Madam City Manager?
It starts October 1st, and this item is in the budget. I think the reason for asking at this time is because it's very early in the fiscal year. Okay. And just like the health insurance, it's time sensitive in order to get it properly advertised and sponsors acquired.
And when is the festival? What I heard, September 22nd?
Yes, as I stated, it's October 22nd.
October 22nd? Okay. All right, those are all the questions I had.
All right, so just a point of clarity, at a previous council meeting, we approved everything through September 30th. And so this is the first event after September 30th that requires approval because of its size, complexity, and cost.
Not really, but.
Okay. Councilman Reeves? Okay. All right. Seeing and hearing no further discussion. Oh, I'm sorry. The chair recognizes District 2 Councilwoman Combs.
So, City Manager, I know from the last meeting we discussed about business as usual. And I think there's an understanding that we are not allowed to advertise any events until you approve it. So is that why we are actually having to move this forward? Because there are some other events that will be happening in October. Certainly we have to get the word out in regards to this one because this is a large citywide event. But I think there has been direction to your employees that we can't do any advertising until every event comes onto the agenda. But I'm confused with the business as usual piece of it. So.
Yeah, I think we dispensed with the business as usual. We had started there, but that was not approved. Eventually you, after much discussion, determined that it would be those events through September 30th. But going back to the resolution, it's actually an ordinance. An ordinance or resolution? On special events, resolution. Ordinance on special events, it requires that the council approve a city-sponsored event, and prior to it being advertised, the city council needs to approve it.
So there's an event that is happening, it's a citywide event that's on October the 1st. So that has to wait until September the 12th to be announced and advertised, which is not giving us enough time.
I didn't pass the ordinance.
Okay. So do I add that event? Is it suggested that I do that as well without a resolution?
If it's on October 1st, then it needs to be advertised either today or on the 12th.
Okay.
I'm going to.
Would I be out of compliance?
I see that this is. I see that
advertise
this is
without-
headed somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask if, while we're up here amending the published agenda, if we could perhaps just look at the entire October calendar, make decisions about October, and then at the September 12th meeting, we'll make decisions about November and December, as well as this policy that we are considering around signature and secondary events for council members. So could we, I would love it if we could amend the agenda to just consider all of the October events, just the October events, and then at our September meeting, we'll do all the other things.
Now? Today?
Or we can wait until September 12th. I mean, I think
Yeah.
there is there is, if we do this for one event, then someone's going to want to do it for another event, and it's going to be a cascading effect. So
And will
we
I
either
get
need to do all of
penalized?
October now, or we can do all of October on September 12th. Madam City Manager, what is your preference?
I will follow whatever the will of the council is. We were planning to bring back on the 12th everything from October 1st through the end of the year. Because if you remember, we brought everything on the 22nd for the rest of the year, but it was truncated to the September, and we were to bring everything back on the 12th.
Okay, so I got it. So understanding that our votes have consequences, there is a motion on the floor to approve this one event happening in October, and whether or not it passes, we will be talking about all of the events at the September 12th meeting. So that is the motion that's on the floor. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll? Call the vote.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Honorable Rao, District 1.
Yes.
Honorable Gums, District 2.
Yes.
Honorable Willis, District 3.
Approving everything?
Honorable Willis, District 3.
She didn't hear you.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Honorable Sebastian, District 4.
I'm voting yes because I know what I'm voting on.
Honorable Reeves, District
Nay.
5.
Nay.
Honorable Williams Brown, District 6.
Yes.
Honorable Pritchett,
Yes.
District 7.
Yes.
Mayor,
right.
it's majority 6-1.
All right. And with that,
Can I
will.
ask a question?
Yes, there is a point of order from Councilwoman Gums.
So, the events in October, is there a penalty if we begin to advertise them? We know that they're on the sheet, they're going to be approved, at least we hope. But is there a penalty for advertising, so we can't proceed with advertising? Would that be a failure to do anything? Would your employees be okay with that?
I'll make sure that they help you with that. The only penalty would be, if it's not approved, then, you know, we have egg on our face, but, you know, given that our recommendation to approve everything was not approved, we're pivoting to accommodate. And what we'll do before the end of the year is bring next first quarter, and hopefully we'll get it all approved.
Okay.
We're also going to be having some signature events, hopefully, approved in the budget. And once they're approved in the budget, we will not have to bring those.
Awesome.
And we're trying to, I'm going to send you a revised signature event email today, kind of making sure everyone is clear on what it is funded in the budget. And please give me your feedback if there's anything you want to change, because that also is going to be embedded in the budget.
All right. And with that, I would love to make a motion, Mayor, if you would let me.
There's been a motion to, was that adjourn?
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
There's a motion.
Second.
Motion and seconded. We'll take a vote by a show of hands.
Yes, Mayor, that's unanimous.
All right,
We are
thank you.
adjourned at 12:17 p.m.